Hello, good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining for yet another Veritas webinar. Today's webinar, we will look at the Veritas Appliances family, and we will have a fairly informative and an interactive session that brings out the Veritas Appliances family and the cutting edge technology that we are bringing in on the appliances platform. To present today, we have our chief architect, Philip Perera, with us, who will talk through the entire session and give us the deep dive of NetBackup appliances as well as the Flex appliances. And on the panelists, we have David from Indonesia, and I'll be assisting Philip to run this session. So with that, and before I hand it over to Philip, I'm going to run a quick survey here, and that is just going to give us a quick introduction on, how your organizations describe, the entire NetBackup family. So the question is, which is the best option that describes your organization? And the options are purely from a NetBackup software and appliances point of view. Do you use software and appliances both, or do you use NetBackup software with a storage hardware which is not Veritas, or you're just here to learn more about NetBackup and the platform? So while I'll let you answer that, I'm going to hand it over to Philip. And Philip, the stage is yours.
Thank you, Amit. So welcome to today's session. And this is kind of following from last week when we had an update on NetBackup 9. We'll be letting you know where to find that recording if you happen to miss out on that. So today we are going to focus on the deployment options for NetBackup software. If you are ready to go with NetBackup 9 now. So you always have the choice of just getting the NetBackup software and doing your own system integration, right? Get your own server, your operating system, and putting everything together. This is what we most commonly call as your build your own option, right? You get our software and we hand over everything for you to go ahead and build. So this option has been always there for NetBackup from the day the first version of software came out, and it will continue to be around. Now, if you are deploying NetBackup in a public cloud, like from AWS, Azure, for example, you could also deploy NetBackup easily using the templates we have for you on the marketplace. Right, so the marketplace, we have created a template, you can point, click, and off you go. We also have the hybrid choice where you deploy the NetBackup software and integrate with even third-party storage choices that you can shop around and that we support, and operate NetBackup in that manner as well. Now, in this particular session today, we are going to focus on a selection of Veritas provided options, Veritas provided deployment options, where the hardware used for deploying the NetBackup software comes from Veritas itself, and explain some specific capabilities and benefits in doing that. The Veritas appliances have been around in the market since year 2010 when they were introduced. So it's now 11 years when Veritas, well, starting from Symantec days, have been selling an appliances form factor, both in physical and in virtual form factor, ideal for remote location data protection as a virtual appliance. Both are deployable as master and media servers. And back in year 2018, 3 years ago, we also launched the Veritas Flex Appliances family. That gives some additional benefits with the technology stack that we include with the Flex form factor. And this year, we also announced our scale-out range of the deployment options in the form of the flex scale appliance as well. Flex scale was announced in January. So I'm going to take you through these various Veritas Appliances options in more detail over today's session. So at this point in time, I just want to pause for a second and see what results we got today. Amit, Trudy, for the poll.
Yes, the results are in fill. And if you see 53% is people are here to learn about the platform, 30% are already using appliances, and 17% with other storage hardware.
Right. So good. So we have a good representation from the audience. So this session, I'm sure you'll find useful. So at the entry level, we have virtual appliances. They come deployable and packaged in an OVA form factor. So the operating system, NetBackup software, the InfoScale software, and security software all included in an easily deployable format. And this is ideal for a location that is potentially a remote site where you only have like an ESX server running in there. And then we also have the other box, the Veritas Flex 5150 appliance. That's just a 1 RU appliance. So it takes little space, and it's a physical box. Also, again, ideal for remote locations and maybe for some data center applications as well. So it gives you physical isolation of your backups as opposed to the virtual appliance, right? In the virtual appliance, will be using the virtual infrastructure, whereas using like a Flex 5150 on a remote office, you'll also have physical isolation for your backup data. And the Flex 5150, small as it is also capable of storing backups with immutable retention. Adds another level of security. So I'll talk a bit more about immutability as I go through today. At the data center range, of course, we have a 5250 model, which was released mid last year. It becomes the latest in the range of the 5200 series, suitable for use as a master server or as a media server. And you also have the large data center performant appliance in the form of the 5300 series. Now, the model 5340 we have in the market today is deployable both as a NetBackup appliance or as a Flex appliance to support multiple instances of NetBackup even in one box in a high density, vertically scalable form factor. So it's a scale up option form factor. And we also have our Veritas Access appliance that is built on the same hardware format of the model 5340. So hence why it's 3340. The 3340 is all but architected for being very cost competitive, right? So it uses very high density drives, uses a lower CPU and memory spec, but it's really good and cost effective for using as a private cloud backup retention for long-term backup replacement. So ideal as a tape replacement option. Now, here I have a comparison of the various 5200 series range of appliances we support today. And you can notice that performance has improved with each generation change we've done over the years since these models were released. So if you're using a model 5230 today, you can see how much more work you would get by adopting, say, the model 5250 we released recently. So in terms of concurrent processing and backup throughput, effectively, a 5250 can do work of about 3 model 5230 appliances as an example. Some facts that compare the model 5340 to its predecessor model as well. That's the model 5330. If you are still using the model 5330, you can see what the 5240 can do in a quick highlight. Some facts about the Access appliance as well. Although it's in a cost optimized format, you can still expect much more performance out of the Access storage target as opposed to using an object store, for example, in terms of facts like the storage write speeds and the data retrieval speeds. It can do about 8 terabytes an hour helping restores, as opposed to an object store which will do about 2 or 3 terabytes an hour. So some facts to keep in mind as you have a look at different options. So with that, I'm going to take you through further details and explain the highlights I have mentioned so far in summary. So do keep sending your questions and use the Q&A button on your Zoom session. My colleagues Amit and David will help respond to your questions as and when you have them. So you don't have to wait till the end for questions. Keep sending them through the session we have today. So the primary benefits of Veritas Appliance can be grouped into 3 categories. So it's for efficiency, cost savings over longer term, and performance with scalability. So typically you would have to go shopping for the right server, operating system, storage, networking software, and maybe even security software suitable for building your own media server or master server if you were doing it on a build your own. With the Veritas Appliance, you as the backup administrator is purchasing a fully integrated system where all these things have been taken care of, and all you have to do is get it into your data center and deploy, and so you'll get going much faster. Now, to cite an example, some years ago, I was working with a large service provider here in Australia, and it took them about 3 months to stand up a media server because they had to work through a server team, a storage team, a network team to get things, and then operating system, security software, all in one place to stand up a media server. So that took them like 3 months. And once they adopted the Veritas Appliances, the 3 months went down to 3 weeks. Right? Yeah, you might still think 3 weeks is still time, but 3 weeks for them is way much faster than what 3 months was, because they still had to work through a stringent processes and procedures they had in these services organization. So an example of how this helps. So these days, even keeping a server running means that you have to manage the stack up from the operating system to defend against vulnerabilities that are now quite prominent even in Linux operating systems. So it's not just deploy and forget with any piece of servers today. With the Veritas Appliance, of course, rest assured, we keep up with these industry vulnerabilities and issues, and we release updates to mitigate them. So we take that worry and the stress out of your hands as another benefit. So you as the backup administrator can own, use, and control your own device, just like the network team has their network switches, and it reduces the overhead associated with lots of teams interacting and having to do change control with lots of people. right? So avoid the too many cooks spoil the soup scenario. So since we do the integration and include all you need from dedup to security software to WAN optimizers, you also avoid buying different pieces of technology that are often associated with building and operating a backup environment. So another key benefit with Veritas Appliances is that we also provide performance numbers. We tell you how many streams you can run on a particular box, how much throughput you can expect for backup and restore. So what that means is that when you're sizing your backup, you know exactly what parameters to work with, right? You know how to, what needs to be deployed to help you meet the backup windows. So this is also another benefit of using a templated backup appliance from us, as opposed to building your own. And if you build your own until you deploy, you don't know what those parameters are going to be. So yes, we help you save time and money with our integrators appliances and media servers that come with deduplication included in them. So this means you get a streamlined acquisition of those components required for running your backup environment. So knowing what performance to expect helps you keep up with your service level objectives, right? Store your recovery copies for fast retrieval on appliances and archive away longer term retention copies of backups deduplicated to a cloud target, be it from AWS, Google, Azure, or even to Alibaba, right? So the appliance also has a built-in deduplication capability to backups you write to these cloud targets as well. So you don't have to take risk with hardware and software integration because we've done that for you. Another little known fact, we also include the Veritas dynamic multipathing software in these appliances that helps to back up VMware virtual machines very fast when you are backing up VMware virtual machines from a SAN-based VMware deployment, right? So another inclusion that we help you with. So with appliances, you can also take advantage of storage and use it as a landing space for your large Oracle database backups through the feature we call as Copilot for Oracle. Now, this is a feature only found on NetBackup appliances, where we have done the integration with Veritas InfoScale product to make all the workflow happen. And this is completely integrated with Oracle's RMAN, or the Oracle Recovery Manager. So RMAN aware and uses the Recovery Manager's incremental update capability to facilitate incremental forever Oracle backups. So when you use the Copilot for Oracle feature, you can also perform fast recovery through the instant recovery for Oracle capability as well. So in some of the testing we did, we found that with a 10 terabyte database, it took only about 3 minutes to mount the database and open and access the database through the Copilot backup share. Now, 3 minutes to get to data was pretty fast, as opposed to 7 hours it takes to restore 10 terabytes of data. Right? So tell that to your Oracle DBAs. They'll ask you to get one of these things and implement it as soon as possible. For all other requirements for performing, for example, database dumps, we now also include deduplicated storage presented over either CIFS or NFS, which you can mount for your database servers. So yes, if you want to perform agentless data backups for databases, or where your database administrators like doing database dumps and recovering from the database dump, then they can use this universal share feature, which now also has a universal share policy type, backup policy type, which allows this database dump share to be backed up, right? So it's not only presented over the network, you can sweep the files and then store them on cloud, disk, tape, whatever you want to store for safekeeping. So this was another feature we introduced to save our customers tier one storage costs, or we call it intermediate costs, that are often associated with backups, because typically databases use tier one storage, and often tier one storage gets consumed for storing database dumps. So this is an area you can avoid and use the universal share and get cost savings back to your organizations in terms of storage. When you store your backups in an appliance's deduplication pool, you can also get to do very fast recovery through our instant recovery and instant access options as well. So not only for VMware as mentioned here, but instant access now works for SQL databases as well, where with SQL, you can access the data files direct from the backup storage and copy just the database files you need for SQL data recovery. You can even mount the database backup over a network share and start accessing the database from the SQL server, even without having to restore the data with instant access for SQL database recovery we have today, right? So it's not only making Oracle recovery faster, you're also helping you recover SQL data as fast as possible as well. If you're also struggling with backup data replication, say within a data center, this often happens when customers have DMZ and non-DMZ zones are separated, and they have a backup appliance in DMZ and another one outside of the DMZ. And you're trying to replicate the backups from the DMZ zone to the non-DMZ zone. And trying to send data over the network can be a problem when firewalls are in place, because firewall filtering can add a lot of overhead, not just for the backup. It can add a lot of overhead to the firewall appliance itself. So appliances to appliances backup replication can also be done through fiber channel, another little known feature. So you want to replicate backups between two appliances fast, you can make use of fiber channel and get it done very fast. If you're having lots of appliances to manage, for example, one of the largest appliances implementations in Australia, they have more than 30 appliances. So if you have lots of appliances to manage, we have something called AMS, or the Appliances Management Server capability. So this could be a service you can activate on an existing appliance, and that becomes a management master for the other appliances in the fleet. This could also be a standalone AMS instance implemented as a virtual machines. So through this, you can centrally view the operational status of the appliances in your fleet and do things like firmware deployments for upgrades, or distribute emergency engineering binaries if that is required. All right. So another way we make the use of appliances very productive for you. So when it comes time to migrate, let's say from your old model 5230 to your new 5250 appliance, we also include a backup migration tool on the appliance itself. So through this policy migration tool, you could automate the data migration from the appliance being retired to the new backup appliance, and also automatically go and modify the backup policy to say that, well, the new backups should start going to the new appliance as part of the workflow. So um, we help you migrate and do lifecycle management when you use appliances using this capability as well. So with that, I will dive into some details about the Flex appliances range I mentioned. So Flex was developed to add an element of multi-NetBackup domain consolidation was one of the primary goals. And we wanted to also make use of the microservices benefits that the containerization platforms offer today, that gives us the ability to perform things like upgrades very fast. Um, and and the containerized format of the appliance also makes this a bit of an industry unique backup appliance as well, because this is the only sort of backup appliance out there that uses and consumes microservices based Docker based architecture. So now we are on our third year with the Flex appliances family. And with the Flex appliance, NetBackup instances operate as Docker containers. So this gives you the benefits of processing through things like version upgrades very fast. And it's also enabled by the capabilities we developed with our Veritas InfoScale product built in that has capability to support persistent storage for containers in the product. So we are using the full stack of our Veritas technologies and modern way to give you the benefits. So just as containers help, give you better utilization of memory and CPU resources, because with containerization, one of the most attractive things is you run one operating system and the containers don't add additional overhead for the operating system. You are not running multiple operating systems, you're running one operating system and the workload as containers. So this gives you higher hardware utilization. And in a Flex environment, you can also operate, therefore, multiple instances of NetBackup. You can run a master server, media server. You can run even different versions of NetBackup instances. So you could run like a 8.1 version and a 8.2 and 8.3 and version 9, all in the same Flex hardware footprint. So that's another way we make hardware utilization better for you and operations easier. And with the Flex firmware 2.0, we released around mid last year. We also now support immutable deduplicated backup retention on these appliances as well. So immutability, implementing immutability takes a lot of work to get it done. We've been working hard on tackling this problem, and we are now third-party Cohasset certified for our capability as well. So, and Flex 2.0 also offers fiber channel interface attachment to the Flex platform as well. So that's new from Flex 2.0. Prior releases of Flex did not support fiber channel interface attachments. Also comes included with an intrusion detection and prevention software and something we call STIG, S-T-I-G. It's an industry standard for operating system hardening that you can implement on the Flex platform as well. So STIG and the IPS, IDS capabilities may give you high levels of security that it becomes very important in this day and age of ransomware attacks and whatnot going on. So at the moment, we offer two Flex appliances models today, the entry 5150 I mentioned earlier, and the data center 5340. And the 5340 also has an active clustering mode. So you can buy the 5340 with one compute head, or you can add a second head. You can only add one more head, and then it forms an active-active cluster. So it helps you get high availability and even higher throughput by adding the second node on the 5340 range. So briefly, as mentioned, we also have the Access 3340, the capacity optimized storage target. Now, we did a recent software change to the Access appliance, and now we support storing about 1.2 petabytes worth of deduplicated backups from a NetBackup environment in an Access environment. So if you're deduplicating, let's say 10:1 ratio for your long-term retention backups, just by using 14 rack units of space, 10:1, you will store about 12 petabytes, logical petabytes of data, right? So if you stack 2 of them in a 42U rack, so 14 plus 14, you'll be logically storing about 24 petabytes of data. So that's a lot of data in a small space. That's another handy thing that Access can help you with. So when you use Access for storing your backups, Access is not a media server, it's a deduplication target. So your backups still go to your regular media server. So the media server could be what you build on your own, or it could even be a NetBackup media server appliance. And then it optimizes, duplicates the backups and stores them deduplicated without any rehydration on the Access box. So when you have to restore the data, data can be pulled from the Access deduplication engine straight to the client. It doesn't have to be brought back to the media server before you restore. So you can do direct restore. So your recovery outcomes, like I mentioned earlier, 8 terabytes an hour restore. If that is good for you, well, you can do direct restores and get faster recovery as opposed to using a public cloud, for example, for long-term retention or backups. So with that, I would like to go into the next segment. But before that, I want to run a quick poll by you, another poll. So the question is, what's the most important criteria for you when you are choosing a backup retention platform? So you have 4 choices in front of you. Go for it. Let us know what you think is the most important aspect. So I'll leave the poll open for a bit and proceed and look at what responses you had to give to this poll.
Phil, yeah. While we wait, did you also want to look at a few interesting questions, or do you want to push the questions to the end?
Yeah, well, yeah. Throw me one question, yeah, and then I'll do more at the end.
Yeah, one interesting question came in was around: is there a way we can migrate a BYO media server into an appliance?
Yeah, you can. Now I did talk about the appliance to appliance migration tool. In this case, you wouldn't be using that, but any backups on a BYO media server can be duplicated using a BP duplicate command, right? So all you need to do is you can go to your NetBackup console, search through the catalog of the backups that are stored now on the BYO media server, build that list, and add that list as an entry to a command called BP duplicate. So you can pipe it to BP duplicate and say, read from here, write to over there. And that's as simple as that. So you can do it that way. If you have the vault option on Veritas master server enabled, you can use the vault option to also create a batch job for migration. So I hope that answers the question, Amit.
Yes, that's perfect, Phil.
All right.
Over to you.
Okay. So I will go through and talk to you about these new and exciting announcement we made with the FlexScale product line earlier this year. Why do we do what we do? It starts with us talking to customers always and looking for what are the new ways that we can help them with. So when we had a chat to our customers, one of the things they told us was that they said they would like a simplified way of operating a NetBackup environment that would scale with performance and capacity as their data footprint grew. So this was one of the things that our customers asked us to solve for them. So with FlexScale, what you get is a hyper-converged form factor backup appliance that scales out as a total NetBackup cluster, and it starts in a 4-node cluster of 448 terabytes of usable capacity at this time of the model we have on offer. And with each node you add, you get a specific amount of additional storage and computing power added to the cluster. So with the FlexScale version 1.3 we have out today, we allow you to scale up to 16 nodes. So that gives you a total 1.7 petabytes of usable storage capacity and the hyper-converged computing power of the nodes in the cluster. So not just storage, the processing capabilities also get added as we scale out. So someone asked me the other day, 1.3, what about 1.2 and 1 and others? Yes, we've been working on this with a large customer for some time. So hence why it's 1.3. So you're not getting the first version of the product we built. We've been working on this for some time with a few, I'll say a couple of large customers that threw us the challenge. And the other challenge that the customers wanted us to solve was they said they would like to have a flatter layout versus a collection of tiers that is typical of a NetBackup deployment. So, NetBackup is termed as a 3-tier solution. It takes some water. So with FlexScale, we present to you a combined deduplication pool across the FlexScale cluster of nodes, where deduplication is distributed across the cluster nodes. And we do the placement of storage to meet performance and resiliency requirements. So for those who are technically minded, we are using 8/4 erasure coding as we do this, and storage placement across the architecture. So we use erasure coding for storage resiliency in FlexScale as opposed to using RAID-based storage that we use in the other Veritas Appliances format. So that's a new thing, but erasure coding has been also in the InfoScale product for some time. And the third challenge that customers wanted us to solve was, they said, could you make operations easy without being bothered about disk pools and media servers sitting in islands? So in a FlexScale deployment, we simplify the life of the backup administrator, so to speak. As required, the NetBackup services that need to run on specific nodes are placed by the FlexScale management engine as required. And even things like the initial configuration is done through a 5-step process. And inputs for the process can be added and imported to a cluster by a simple YAML definition file. And using a simplified, and we also include a simplified site recovery implementation to enable disaster recovery for the entire flex scale deployment as well. And this is, of course, built on Docker containers with high availability as a given in a Veritas validated hardware reference platform. So we do it with HPE today. So we plan to have a number of other vendors come along as we go. And the fourth problem they wanted us to solve was they wanted us to simplify the solution management and the upgrade process. So this means you can easily replace a failed node by simply, as you can see in the FlexScale console here, it discovers new nodes and then you click and say, replace, as simple as that. As simple as that, you can also add new nodes to the cluster and grow it without any disruption to your ongoing operation. So you can scale it up and add a node without impacting any of the ongoing running operations. And similarly, you can also do rolling upgrades and manage different software elements, all while the entire cluster remains online and available. So, I explained briefly FlexScale, and I earlier talked about the Flex Appliance. So here's a quick comparison of the two, right? So there's a comparison of the scale out option, which is the FlexScale family, and the scale up option, which is what the Flex Appliance does by adding nodes to like a 5340 appliance. In short, just remember that from a workload point of view, the agents and functions we support today in NetBackup are all available in the FlexScale family as well. So the deduplication algorithm and the method is the same as well. Just the engine is engineered to be different. I'll get to some detail in a bit. Now, the differences between the two families start with aspects like resiliency. So FlexScale is designed to be resilient to even multiple nodes not being available. With the Flex Appliance, you can actually cluster and have two nodes, but it's not resilient to more than two nodes, whereas FlexScale can be resilient to multiple nodes depending on how big your cluster is. In terms of NetBackup domains you can operate, FlexScale today only offers you the choice of a single domain. So there's no multi-domain capability in FlexScale, whereas with the Flex Appliance, you can run multiple domains in a Flex Appliance. For the scale factor, FlexScale scales both performance and capacity as you add the compute node, whereas on Flex scale up model, the nodes are what you have is the storage that you can scale. So it's the scaling aspects of FlexScale are different. Every time you add a node, not only storage, but throughput also goes up. Rack density wise, FlexScale, I will say, is moderate. The Flex Appliance is still higher in density in terms of rack density. So I know we are adding another member to the appliances family. So I thought it's better to have you informed as you make choices between which one do I deploy. So to give you some inner views of the hardware that we offer today, based on a model of an HP DL series from HPE. So we are using 12 14 terabyte SAS disk for the erasure coded backup retention. So because we are using 8/4 erasure coding, all the storage elements are distributed across 12 disks. Now, mind you, in a 4-node cluster, we are not going to be writing data through the same nodes 12 disks. We are distributing the writes across 12 disks that are spread on the 4-node cluster. On each node, we also have 2 NVMe drives. And the NVMe drives are, obviously, you know, they are very fast. And the NVMe drives are used for storing the NetBackup catalog and the deduplication signature database. And we also use the NVMe drives for storing a data change map that is used by InfoScale when it does things like mirroring and replications. And the NVMe drives across the cluster are arranged in a 3-way mirror. So, you know, in a minimum 4-node cluster, 2 nodes can die, and the cluster and the deduplication catalog and the NetBackup catalog will still stay up because it's 3-way mirror. Then we also use 2 other mirror drives in this hardware that is used for storing the operating system, logs, crash dump, and things of that sort. And just like we do with the Model 5150 and the Model 5250 appliances today, which are fairly recent introductions, we also include on the motherboard an M2 disk that is used for storing the image, the boot image, and a certificate that is used for authenticating the ownership of the node. So having this on a chip on the motherboard allows us to do quick repairs if the boot image had to be rebuilt, and even do things like motherboard replacement if worse comes to worse very rapidly. So I went a bit technical, but I hope this was insightful. So as mentioned before, if you need a complete site DR for a FlexScale cluster, which is in one location, and you want to have a full standby FlexScale DR at another location, we also help you with the process we have developed on that as well. So when we have a FlexScale deployment built for DR readiness, we cluster them using the Veritas InfoScale global cluster failover capability. Now, global cluster capability, or GCO, is very popular with customers who do mission critical disaster recovery today. So we are making use of that capability. And then the NetBackup catalog I mentioned. So we do, we replicate the catalog from the production side to the DR side using the built-in InfoScale volume replicator. And we also replicate the backup data from the production side to the DR side simply by using the deduplication engine's optimized duplication mechanism. So in the event of site outage, the DNS entries for the master server can be changed if the network details on the DR side are a different subnet, for example. And then after that, we can do we can initiate a takeover of the functions of the production side and get the DR location active to be able to perform backups or help with restoration work, which you might want to do at the DR side. And when the site comes back online, we can do the reverse to resync with the failed environment and be ready to do a take back or failover, fail back should the DR site have an outage situation. So we thought long and hard about how to make this as simple as easy for you to use. None of those complications, functions you have to worry about, we have automated that. So some deeper details about the scale-out cluster as well. So you have the foundation of the FlexScale operating system built with Red Hat, Docker, and NetBackup and InfoScale all bundled in. So in a deployment like this, you can see on the screen in front of you, we have containerized NetBackup services, and we also have something called a FlexScale Appliances Manager. So it's kind of like the one that looks after the environment. And there will be a master server that will be running on any one of the nodes. So you don't have to know where the master server is running at any given time. It's running somewhere in the cluster. And And in turn, the master server has a layer of media servers and a layer of a distributed deduplication service that is handling the data storage in the FlexScale cluster. Now, of course, this is done by a collective a set of Flex instances that run inside these compute nodes. And to manage the I/O activity, there is an I/O router process as well. So which client backs up to which media server is not something you configure. You point your NetBackup clients to the FlexScale cluster. The I/O router dispatches and assigns the workload to the least busy node to auto load balance for performance and throughput. So I hope this gave you a deep insight under the covers of what the NetBackup FlexScale product is, how it scales out, architecture works, how it simplifies things with automation, and gives you high availability as well. So in short, simplicity you want for the NetBackup data protection you count on. So remember, this is yet another deployment choice amongst the many choices I discussed initially during this session. And also remember that with all our physical appliances, you also get deployment services as well. The big appliances include it as mandatory. And with the data center appliances, you can add on usually. And with this, we help you rack and stack these when you buy them. So if you are one backup administrator and you're worried, like you're sitting in, for example, it often happens in Australia, backup administrator is sitting in South Australia, Adelaide, but the media server he's deploying is in Sydney or in Melbourne. You don't have to fly down. Let these appliances go to the suitable data center you want. Our deployment services will come into the data centers, rack stack, connect the cables, power up, make sure everything works, and hand over to you. So we have our built-in deployment services that help you with that. You can also send over telemetry for 24/7 health monitoring. So every 50 minutes, a heartbeat goes out to our telemetry monitoring center. And with that, you can log into our portal and view the health of your appliances, even when you are holidaying at home or wherever you are spending your holiday time with. And of course, our consulting team is always there to help you build, architect, and design various aspects I talked about, like universal shares, Copilot, and whatnot. Our consulting team can help you with that. So we have behind you, not just us as a panelist over here. There are 2,000 engineers in our organization just working on our products alone. 2,000 engineers, well, 2,000 is quite a big number given most of the, a lot of startup companies today don't even have 2,000 total employees. So there's a big group of people solving for a large base of customers, and that's what makes us innovate to meet our challenges for our customers for tomorrow. So next steps for you. I saw that majority of you are not using a NetBackup appliance today. So if you want to virtually walk through one of these Veritas appliances, there's a URL on the screen. Go to that URL and you can get a 3D interactive walkthrough of one of these boxes, open the cover, see how components work inside. Of course, all models are there except the FlexScale. FlexScale is still new. We haven't added in there. You can also do a total cost of ownership study with a Veritas account team. So if you're not using a Veritas appliance, remember that the cost benefits come through a life cycle of using them, not just at the point of a purchase. So a lot of people think, oh, I just get the hardware, put things together, off you go. There's a lot more to do with running it over, say, a 5-year life. And that is where you get the benefits and the payoff by using Veritas Appliance. And you can get a solution workshop and discuss all these challenges you have. And last but not least, we do have a running promotion these days as well. We've been having the promotion for some time. It's active till end of this month. So if you want to click next and order one of these appliances, you can buy one, get one free, or buy a couple of smaller appliances and get one free as well. So if you still want to buy one, you can order one and get the promotion benefit. So do keep that in mind. And with that, at the end of this session, we'll get this material out to you. And I kept here a bunch of URLs, which I think you'll find useful if you want to revisit any of the topics we mentioned today. So with that, the poll result has come in. And what's the most important criteria for you in choosing a backup retention platform is operational efficiency, speed, and reduced downtime. Yes, can understand that very well. So thanks for staying with us today. And with that, I want to hand over to Amit, and also note our email address should you have any questions now for us. So Amit and David, how are we doing with the Q&A?
So thanks, Phil, and great job on covering the content. Loved it. So yes, we had a lot of questions. But we've been able to address most of them. So there was one question I thought, we could, given that we have a little bit of time. There was a question from Yoga Devi around, do we have load balancing and high availability in the appliances? Now, I know we had a slide where we talked about high availability, but maybe a few thoughts around how the load balancing can be achieved with our appliances, especially with scale out and scale up.
Yes, thanks. With FlexScale, of course, load balancing is a given. It's an automatic process. The IO router's job is doing that, and you don't have to bother. We do it automatically. If you're not using FlexScale and if you're using any other form of NetBackup, you can configure load balancing. So it's up to you to configure it. And depending on like how many media servers you have, and you must look at which media servers can access which workloads and then load balance between them. So that's possible. Load balancing is possible in a number of ways. It's a broad topic, so I'll quickly get to it. We can also load balance the workload point of view, right? Say if you're backing up 1,000 virtual machines from say 50 ESX servers, there's a load balancing mechanism for the workloads as well. All right, so we have a resource throttler where we can automatically ensure that we don't overload one ESX server or one data store more than with a sufficient number of snapshots, concurrent backups to make things work. So I will say, if I didn't get the full answer, get in touch with us. Load balancing is a broad topic. We can do it in the back end for our storage, and we can also help in the front end for the clients as well.
Brilliant. Thank you, Phil. I think we've got 2 minutes and we might be able to squeeze in one more question. There were actually quite a few questions around the simplicity of upgrade when it comes to Flex appliances, and not just the containers, but the Flex OS as well.
Yeah, so Flex OS 2.0 is a major enhancement for us. Now, if you're using Flex today and if your Flex operating system is lower than 2.0, I'll highly recommend you to upgrade to Flex 2.0 firmware. As always, when you use Veritas, you can log a call with our support organization, do a pre-installation check and make sure that the environment you are going from to the environment you are going to can be safely managed. And we can inform you with the key things for you to consider. And the other aspect where you can also get some self-help is also our SORT, S-O-R-T, S-O-R-T .veritas.com. If you go to that SORT website, there's also an install and upgrade validation check as well. So if you go to the install and upgrade validation check, you say that you're going to upgrade to this version of the software from that version of the software. And we immediately build out a list of checks and awareness things you should look into when you're doing an upgrade. But yeah, shortly, if you're not using Flex 2.0, I highly encourage you to adopt it. And also get in touch with us, and our support organization will help you along the way.
Sounds good. Thank you, Phil. And I think we have hit the top of the hour. Thank you all for your active participation, team. It has been a lovely, informative session by Philip. Feel free to reach out to us on the email address that is flashing on the screen right now. We'd be more than happy to walk through any architectural or functional queries that you have on NetBackup. So until next time, thank you all for joining in. Stay safe and see you soon. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.